One of the main reasons why so many people love Python Pandas is the ability to manipulate data frames. You can essentially think of it like a data frame as kind of like a Excel sheet or a Google sheet worth of data, where you can write Python to really automate a lot of different types of calculations, modify that data frame and add in new rows and columns and much more. And in today's video, what we're gonna be doing is covering over 15 different ways on how you could create a Pandas data frame. We're gonna go over basics like passing in a dictionary to reading in Excel, as well as CSV files and much more. And like all the other videos here on this channel, all of the code is going to be on my website. So if you want to copy any of it, click the link down below. With that out of the way, make sure you grab a notebook and we're going to start coding in Python. All right, let's get started. So we're going to import in a few different things. Import pandas as PD. We're also going to import in Numpy. So import Numpy as NP. And then we're also going to import in JSON. So import JSON like that. And then we should be good for the video, I believe. And what we're going to start off with is a very basic example. I don't really have a particular order for these, but we're just going to walk through them. So the first is going to be a list. So imagine we had some random data over here. Let's say 10, 20, 30, and 40, right? So we have this on that side of things. And then what you want to do is df equals pd.dataframe, dataframe like this. What you'll notice across a lot of the parts of this video, we're going to use pd dataframe, right? So pd dataframe, we're going to pass in our data, which is going to be this list over here. And now we need to specify a column. So feel free to name a column name. I'm just going to say columns equals, and I'm just going to say numbers like this. All right, super, super basic. And then what you can see, if I go over here to df, right? Boom, there we go. We have a data frame on this side of things, right? Now, how about if we have like multiple columns, right? So let's say we have our data in here. So this is example 2. Right? And we're going to have data equals, and we're going to have our list, right? And inside this list, right, we have other lists. So let's say we have like 1, Ryan, 2, Bob, and then 3, Charlie. Right now, what we're going to do instead on this side of things is same exact code up over here, right? And we're going to change our columns. Since we have multiple columns, all you do is put ID, right? So that's column 1, and then we'll put like name for column 2, right? So then we have our data frame like that. And I go over here to see the data frame, check it out, ID as well as name. Okay, cool. Now, the most popular way that at least in this series of videos that I typically create a data frame is from a dictionary. So let's take a look at that example. So example 3 is a dictionary, and we're going to have a dictionary full of lists, right? So let's build that out. We're going to say data equals, and then inside over here, we can have a name. So name, and then we're going to pass in a list of names, and then we could have age as well. And again, I believe I still have this over here. We'll use the same 3, right? So we'll have Ryan over here. I think it was Bob, Charlie, doesn't matter too much. Then what I'll do over here is put some ages. So I'm 27. Then we'll save like 30. Also, no string there. 27, 30, 40, like this. All right. And then all you have to do on this side of things is, with dictionary, it's really nice, right? df equals pd.dataframe. Just pass in your data, right? Because it's already set. And then if you go over here to df, right? There we go. Super, super nice. Okay. And like the same thing could happen too if you want to pass in a series into a dictionary, right? So I'm going to say like example 4, passing series into a dictionary, right? So like imagine we had series, and we'll cover like how you can build it from a series a little bit later in this lesson. But since we're doing dictionaries right now, might as well just put it over here. So let's say we have like series 1 equals pd.series. Again, put in some values, right? We'll say like values in here of 25 and 30, 25 and 30, and we'll put some values in here of 25 and 30. Set an index equals AB. Okay, and then we'll have series 2 in a second. Just let me show you the series 1, right? So there's series 1, and then we'll have series 2. I won't show you that as much, but we'll just put like in here, doesn't really matter. New York, LA, again, index AB. That should be series 2. I'm just going to rerun that. So now we have series 1, series 2. Again, we can build a dictionary. So data equals, pass that in over here, say age, and then we'll say series 1, right? And then you can have city, series 2. And again, there's so many different ways that you could build out data frames. I'm not even going to cover them all over here. Why is series 2 not defined? All right, there we go. And again, we can literally use the same code above, which is why I like putting stuff in dictionaries, right? Cool. And check this out. We go to DataFrame, right? We have our index that's still there. We have our age as well as our city. All right, we can also use tuples too. I don't really use that often to build out data frames. So example 5, tuples, and let's jump into that. So you can just say records equals, and then you can just go over here. Doesn't really matter. 1, Ryan. 2, Bob. 3, Charlie. All right, so you have tuples, and over here I do have an error. Forgot my comma. There we go. Not a big deal. We are good to go. We'll carry DataFrame df equals pd.dataframe, and you're gonna have to say dot from records this time. So from records, pass in records, which we have over here, records, and set your columns. So columns equal ID and name. Right? And then just go DataFrame. Here we go. ID as well as name. All right, another dictionary example over here. And this combines dictionary and list. So dictionary and list. So like imagine you had a list, right, with a bunch of dictionaries inside over here. So we'll say data equals, and then we're going to do that. So what we'll have over here is 3 different dictionaries. We'll build this out here in a second. So first we'll have name, right? And these are like the same stuff over and over again, but just showing you like there's a lot of different ways to make it. If you want to skip ahead, right, and see some of the other ways when uploading files, perfectly okay. But we'll just do these over here really fast. So anyways, name, right? We can do the same over here. We'll just say, and this was actually 27, pub 30, doesn't matter, right? We have dictionaries inside of a list. And again, when we're working with dictionaries, super easy. Is all we have to do is go through over here and turn this into a data frame like that. And here you go. Okay, now let's change things up a little bit. Let's say we have 2 lists. So example 7, we have 2 lists, right? So you can have names equal, right? And then we could have ages equal. Maybe we change this up because it's kind of boring. Let's say like teams and wins. I want to keep using the same data, although the sample code is like that. We'll say teams is like the Rays and Yankees, right? And I don't know how many wins each of them have. We're past the halfway point of baseball season. We'll say like 45, and we'll say Rays have a better record than the Yankees. I don't know if that's true right now. I think the Yankees actually have a better record. Regardless, what we'll do over here, super easy. df equals pd.dataframe. Inside over here, we'll pass in on here team, which is going to be our teams. And what you'll notice is, guess what? We're using a dictionary, right? And then we'll say wins like that. So make sure you know how to use a dictionary in Python. All right, there we go. And then again, we go to DataFrame. Here we go. Team as well as the wins. Converting a series is really easy as well. So I'll say example 8 from a series, right? And if you're watching this in lessons in general, series was one of the earlier videos. I think this thing be right after the series video. So we're going to say pd.series, pass in some values. Let's say 10, 20, 30. Again, it doesn't really matter too much. And then all we have to do over here is df equals pd.dataframe, right? We're going to pass in our series, which is we have a s, and then set a column, right? So columns equal values. And then, yeah, I mentioned the next one will be multiple series, right? So it'll be example 10, multiple series. I hate saying that word because my phone always goes off when I do it, but that's all right. Anyways, this is example 9, not 10. So let me just fix that. Let's set up each of these over here. So we'll still say this. We'll make this as like S1. And then let's come up with S2. We'll say like S2 equals pd.series. I don't want my phone to go off again. And we'll put some values in here. I don't know. Let's say like tops, Panini, and Upper Deck. And all we got to do now, we have S1 and S2, is combine them together to make our data frame. And we can do this, again, through a dictionary, right? So df equals pd.dataframe, and then in over here, we're going to essentially pass in value, which is going to be S1, and then we'll say like card company, which is going to be S2. Right. Cool. And then we take a look at our data frame and we have that. All right. So now we're going to kind of change the video. So those are kind of like the first 9 examples. Let's take a look at how you can upload different data types. So probably the most common is going to be using a CSV or an Excel file. So we'll start off with example 10, which is a CSV file. Now I don't have a CSV file on hand just to do this really quick. So you have to believe me that it works, but I'm going to say df equals pd.read, and you just put underscore CSV, and then we'll just call it data.csv, right? So you can bring in your CSV file just like that. Now, if you're going to use an Excel file, it's a little different. We'll say example 11, Excel. And how we do an Excel file is not through read CSV. And we're actually going to say read Excel. So read Excel. Just like that. And then remember, Excel file is XLSX like that. So a little bit different, right? So make sure when you're working with spreadsheets, if you're using a CSV or XLSX, make sure to define that, right? Okay, now let's talk about like reading in a JSON file. So funny enough, I just recorded my JSON video for this series, which will be way later in the series. Don't have to worry about it too much, but just in case you have to read JSON, right? df equals pd.read underscore JSON, and just pass in data.json. Data is just going to be your file name, right? So I just call it data over here. But like if this spreadsheet name was like accounting Q2 report, right? .csv, put that in over there. All right, so there's the JSON example. JSON's 12. We're going to do a JSON string now just because we're talking about JSON. So we'll say like example 13. Okay, so now what we're going to do is read in JSON as a string. So what I'm going to do on this side of things, first, I have to import in IO. I apologize, I should have put that at the very top. Next, we're going to build out our JSON string. So what we're going to do on that side of things is just call it JSON string. So JSON string like this equals, we'll put 3 single quotes, and then we'll put 3 single quotes over here. I'm just going to use a band example. So we'll say like band over here, and actually make sure these are double quotes, otherwise you're gonna get an error. Band we'll put over here, I don't know, Billy Strings, put genre, so genre, bluegrass. All right, and then what we're gonna do is duplicate this, and we'll do North Lane. We'll say metal over here. All right, so we have our JSON string, and then what we're gonna do is read this in. And in the past, you could use just read JSON. That doesn't work anymore. So we're gonna change this up slowly, or a little bit. So we can still read JSON in here, but what we need to do now is put io.string io, and then just pass in the JSON string like that. A little bit extra work, but now this will work properly. And I go over here to DataFrame once this loads up, and we'll be good to go. So, oh, and the reason why I had my error, so funny enough, I forgot to put it over here like this, essentially in a list with these brackets. So yeah, small mistake, but now you'll see that this works. Here you go, band as well as the genre. All right, so let's take a look at a few other examples. All right, so we're gonna go through example 14, and don't worry, we're going past the 15 I mentioned in the intro. We're actually gonna do 19, so custom index. And I will have a video already on the channel talking about indexes and then multi-indexes and stuff like that. So don't worry too much if you don't understand what an index is yet, but just know it is gonna be something that's required if you're trying to learn Python Pandas. With that out of the way though, let's create another dictionary in over here. All right, nothing really too special. Let me find actually a dictionary we used a little bit earlier. Let's use that instead of repeating it. Where are we at? We'll use this over here. Not this one. Where is the other one? There, we'll use this. I was like, I know I had a dictionary a little bit earlier. All right, so we'll use this for our dictionary, right? Then we're gonna create a data frame over here. Okay, and then all I have to do over here is set our data frame. So we're gonna say df equals pd.dataframe, pass in data. Then we're gonna say index equals, and then just put our rows. So row 1, then we'll have row 2 and row 3. So row 2, and then row 3. And then, yeah, all we gotta do, just take a look at this now. So our index is over here, right? We define this rather than having it by the default 0, 1, 2, which if you see, we scroll all the way back up over here, right? By default 0, 1, 2. Now we have changed those index values into row 1 through 3. Okay, cool. So now what we're gonna do is take a look at creating a data frame from columns of another data frame. This is actually pretty common. So like imagine you had an original data frame. So we'll say original data frame or original df. So original df equals pd.dataframe. And again, doesn't really matter too much. Like we'll use these over here and just expand out. So we'll just grab this. I guess I already had the brackets, but it's fine. And I'm gonna add another column. We'll say like city, put over here, doesn't matter. Orlando, let's say like New York and LA. All right, so we have original data frame like that. And then what we're gonna do is create a new data frame. So we'll say new df equals, and then you just go to your original data frame like this, and you specify like specifically what columns you want. So let's say we're gonna grab the name and then also the city. So make sure you do double brackets if you grab multiple columns, which we want to use. So we'll grab the name and city for this new data frame. And I use this all the time, right? If we're creating a new data frame, stuff like that. So you can see we have our name as well as city. Okay, you can also create one row by row if you really wanted to. So again, we're getting kind of more advanced over here. We're going to go through two different versions of that. So say row by row. So imagine we have something over here called rows. It's just going to be a blank list like that. Then what we're going to do is say for I in range, we'll do 3 over here. We're going to append. So rows.append, right? And we're going to append in a dictionary. So we're going to say over here, A, which is going to be I, and then we'll have B, which is going to be I times 10. Again, like this, nothing too serious on this side of things. And this needs to actually be that over here. Cool. Anyways, what we're going to do next is take a look at our data frame. So df equals pd.dataframe, and then just pass in specifically these rows that we generate over here. Right. And now let's take a look at our data frame. Right. So you can see A001, right? So we pass in these values over here. 1 is I, then 1 times 10. So we have 10, and then 2, right? 2 times 10, we have 20. All right, now let's take a look at another way of doing this. So we'll say example 17, row by row, example 2. And how we're going to do this is we're going to say df equals pd.dataframe, dataframe, say columns equals, and we'll pass in over here A and B. So A and also B. All right. And then what we're going to do next is for I in range, we're going to do the 3 again. And we're going to say df equals pd.concat. Now, we learn about concat, merge, and all these other things a little bit later in the series. But regardless, we're going to do concat, which will keep adding in these new specifically rows in this case. And what we're going to do is some fun stuff in over here. We're going to have our df. We're going to say pd.dataframe again. And this isn't super practical, but still, we're going to put A. And this time we're going to do I in over here. And then we're going to have B. And then in over here next, we're going to have I times 10 like this. And then we can ignore index. Ignore index equals true. And now if we take a look at our data frame, right, same exact thing on this side of things. This one I found much easier than this one, but I just want to show you, again, multiple ways to do this. Example 18 now, we're going to use a Numpy array, another common approach you'll see used quite a bit. Anyways, we'll have array equals np.array, np for NumPy, right? And we'll just pass in some values over here. So go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's our NumPy array, right? Go over here and just take a look at what that looks like. We have our array like that. Okay. Now what we're going to do on this side of things is create data frame. So we'll say data frame equals pd.dataframe, pass in our array. So AR, we'll say columns equal and specify your columns, right? Column 1, column 2, like that. And we'll take a look at this data frame, right? So column 1, column 2, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And lastly, we're going to do a SQL query. So I'm not going to link this up to a database. There's quite a few different ways that you can link up into databases, run a query, and then turn this into a data frame. So I'll just show you one example. So example 19 is a SQL query. And I find this helpful, right? SQL query. I've used the Redshift connector at my full-time job, but we'll just go over here and say import SQLite 3, right? And then you set up a connection. So connection equals over here, SQLite 3.connect. And then you'll connect to a database. So like my database.db, it doesn't really matter. This is all fictitious. I've also done this on a app for Streamlit, and that was kind of fun. Either way, you want to set your query, right? So not the best SQL. Obviously, you want to specify columns, but I'll just say select star from users. Again, do not do select stars. I don't like using select star all the time, unless you're just trying to see what's in a table in a database. Regardless, we'll say df equals pd.read SQL query, SQL query like this, and just passing query, and then passing your connection, and then you could print out your data frame. So we'll just put the F over there. And yeah, I mean, I just showed you 19 different ways. Honestly, like the most common ways for me, if we go back up over here, like I'd say 80% of the time I'm creating data frames, I use CSV or Excel. I also use a list quite a bit, right? Or multiple lists, dictionaries, like you see that all the time in videos. I mean, there's other use cases for other stuff, but primarily those are the ones that I use the most, right? I know get away with it a lot if you know how to read Excel, read a CSV file. Anyways, and JSON's really important as well. Anyways, that's this video on creating a data frame. I know it's kind of a boring video in comparison to some of the other Pandas videos here on the channel, but it's kind of important to know when you're jumping into this series. Thanks for checking out this Python video. And if you found how to make a data frame quite easily, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're trying to upload at least a few different data videos every single week. Now, this is an early video within my Python Pandas playlist. In fact, there's almost 40 videos in that playlist. So if you want to check out other videos, a few links down below in the description, or you can click right over here to watch the next video.